efforts will be successful.
Hello, my name is Hussein Mohammed. I'm with the Sagar Radio and also Emory University. And my question to you all, this plan, from what I'm listening from my listeners telling me, is about pushing the immigrant businesses and the poor people out of the Clarkston. How are you going to protect them, their business, and those people that are going to be affected by this? And also, my listener also said they are not well informed by city. How are you going to respond to that? And also, you mentioned about you invited about 6 stakeholders. Who are these people? The 6 stakeholders that have been invited to this, since 90% of this business is immigrant. Thank you.
I think we're on. My first one is the city is committed to better communication. I think what they talk about, the tools that are going to be implemented as far as the new city website, some of the social media platforms that we all have to become more relevant to it as a form, and then also the communication we put out in those areas. I want to talk about communication first. The city is doing a better job, and you'll see that being rolled out within the next 30 days. So communication will be improved as a source of what's going on. As it relates to the businesses, I think what we've heard and we've seen is there's an embracing understanding. There are business owners from the various communities. They're not pushing them out. They want to say, we want to help them. We want to develop incubators. We want to see what resources that we can take from a granting standpoint that are out there, grants are out there, so we can help them grow. We want to get in the positions of, in this new development where they can move forward and bring their businesses in so all of Clarkston can embrace. So I would say, based on what we've been shared today, and even those stakeholders, and I'm going to talk about that, it's more about embracing them and help them grow, not push them out.
And I would, excuse me, I would like to definitely add to that. In the meeting today, we really talked just the opposite of what you said. No one talked about trying to get rid of any businesses. We talked about building on the strengths that we already have, making sure that we have the businesses that reach out to not only the persons that are here from all around the world, but also the people that are here that were born and raised in Clarkston. The people that work over here and drive through. How do you get, what kind of business do we need to make us stop and have lunch or have dinner here in Clarkston? But definitely, as a matter of fact, when you look at the IDA program, which is one of the things that you saw in the chart, that's designed to even help the small businesses. We talked about ways with the incubator that can help the small businesses. We didn't talk about throwing it all down and bringing in a large business that would take over the environment. That was not a discussion.
Yeah, in terms of the stakeholders were invited by the ULI, and I don't know them personally, but I can tell you we had a very diverse group that represented homeowners, people that live and work in this area, and they provided us a lot of insight, as well as the city council. But there's a few key things that I want to address to your question. When it comes to communication, I can't emphasize enough that the steps the city took by putting in a manager-managed system where you have professionals that understand how to communicate and how to get things done is absolutely critical to Clarkston's moving forward. And if you'll notice too that nowhere in our presentation, until you get to the long term, do we talk about the construction of new. We are talking about taking what is here today and building on it. And the city market that we're suggesting as a catalyst to do that specifically embraces the diversity, which is the traditions that have been here, and then some of the changes that are happening in this community. And we think that that is just a wonderful place to bring all of the citizens of this community together so that they can grow and go forward together.
My name is Mitch Jacoby, and I'm a developer, and I'm also the chairman of the advisory board for the International Rescue Committee. So I have a foot in both worlds. And I think related to Mr. Mohammed's question would be some discussion about the Downtown Development Authority. and loans, low-interest loans, because these people don't have a lot of equity, and traditional business takes equity. So I think that is a key to the whole development of this process.
If I want to make a comment as it relates to our city market, and then I'll turn it over to people that know more about all of the acronyms that we're throwing around today. One of the things that we looked at as the city market was a way for incubator businesses to get a foothold without having to make those huge equity investments that it takes to go into a real sticks and bricks retail environment or business environment, where they're required to sign a long-term lease. We're looking at this similar to, the best analogy I can make is the pop-up carts that you see in your shopping malls today. 10 years ago, you didn't see many of those. Some of those that started out in the carts are now in stores in the malls. And so we look at that city market as exactly that same thing. So that's how we're saying grow your economy in a slow fashion, but one that doesn't require a lot of equity.
Was there a particular question that you had about that?
No, I think that's great, that the market, that the city marketplace is a great idea.
Well, I first want to appreciate this presentation because I found it very informative. But I'd like to take my moment on the mic to echo the words of Mr. Muhammad. Because even though if the people in this room aren't consciously planning to push out immigrant, African American, low-income, working class residents and businesses, once you tie development to market forces, once you tie improvements to capital gains and profit, then the market forces themselves will push out those without wealth or little of it. So these are some serious concerns that everybody in this room needs to think about. Actually, we've seen some of this going on quite often all over the country. A lot of people call it gentrification. We've seen it in East Lake Meadows, Techwood Homes, Harlem, Chicago. So these are some very important matters I think we all need to address and go back home and think and investigate and find out who's who and what interests are being served. Because again, you don't have to explicitly say we want to push people out as long as you leave it up to the market.
While we're waiting on the question, I don't know if we go back to the slide, but one of the things that we talked about that would be have greater details when all of this is presented. How many of you have been downtown Stone Mountain in the last year? How many of you have heard about the Arts Incubator? That's one of the things that we talked about. By having an Arts Incubator there, one of the things that we were able to work with the city of Stone Mountain on was how do we improve the existing buildings so that everybody would want to be able to come back to Stone Mountain. And then how do we also make sure that we give small businesses an opportunity to show their business and to thrive. And we designed that Arts Incubator in Stone Mountain, working with the stakeholders and the city in a manner that is doing exactly what we want to do. There have been businesses that have been attracted to Stone Mountain because they see the improvements in the other buildings down there. And nobody was pushed out of Stone Mountain by making improvements to the physical structure using grant funds. We were able to bring a lot of improvements to the entire downtown Stone Mountain. By having the artists come in, those artists don't have to pay the market rate. They're thriving. They're growing their businesses. It doesn't have to be an artist incubator. We talked about an arts incubator. We talked about other types of incubators. We even talked about the individual development accounts, the IDA program, which is another way to actually leverage every dollar with 5 other dollars to provide a match process for businesses. We talk about programs that the state has, programs that the county can work with the city of Clarkston on. So one of the things that was very important to our group was how do we make sure that we don't push out businesses. And yet at the same time, you can't keep doing the same thing and expect to improve. So how do we improve the business area downtown to make it an attractive destination point and make sure that businesses thrive? We can talk about opportunities for business education. So there are lots of things that we talk about that would be very, very positive for entrepreneurs, okay?